Hello everyone, welcome to week 5. We are now over the middle and we're into the second half of the course. Unit 3. Unit 3 is by far our largest chunk. It takes up 4 weeks, and the reason for this is because what we're doing in this unit is a degree more complex than anything we did in Unit 2 or Unit 1. So you can think of it as we give you twice the amount of time because it takes twice the amount of effort. Okay, so for week 5 specifically, we got a few things going on. First of all, we have in lesson 1, finding a research topic. So this goes over generally how you would select a research topic, even if you're beginning, from stage 0 or from scratch. Us specifically, we have the 3 essays we discussed in Unit 2. And you're going to be selecting one of those essays to be the thing that you focus on. And then your final research project will have to do with some interesting aspect of that essay itself. So some argument that it brings up, some topic it engages with, basically something that sticks out to you, something that maybe we identified in discussion or that you identified in your critique essay at the end of Unit 2. So this is going to be left largely up to you. There's a great deal of freedom in what you can and can't choose. In what you can choose, and if you're having trouble toward the end of the week selecting a research topic, then send me an email, give me a call during office hours, drop by Skype, something like that, and we'll see if we can't narrow down something you'd be interested in. That being said, let me reiterate this again. I want you to try to do this on your own first. I'm not just going to go through and select a research topic for you. That's completely up to you. If I do, it'll be boring, you won't be invested in it, it's not going to work out well in the writing process. So go through, try to select something for yourself first, and then if we run into any hiccups, we can, you and I can sit down and talk and we can try to figure it out. After that, Lesson 2, Audience Considerations. So we've talked about, in the last unit, thinking about how we can use rhetoric to talk to our audience, or how rhetoric is aimed at specific audiences. And how rhetorical elements can be adapted to pull out different aspects of your writing and of basically anything you put together. Here we're going to take that a step further. We're going to talk about writing to specific audiences, what we need to consider as writers, how we need to think about how our reader is engaging what we're writing, how we need to think about how our reader is going to understand what it is that we're trying to tell them. And by taking these into consideration, we'll be able to more accurately address the readers that we're specifically aiming at, and we'll be able to tailor our message to the particular audience that's going to receive it. Important thing to note here, the end of this lesson is tied into one of your homework assignments for this week. So if you'll scroll down to the bottom of Lesson 2, you'll see an area that says Homework. And we'll have 2 PDFs, Letters from a Nut and then Letters from a Nut without responses. And what I would like for you guys to do at the end of this is to open up that PDF. It's flipped on its side, but we've gone over already how to write that. Open up the Letters from a Nut PDF, read through that, and then cruise on over to the assignment section. And it'll say, here we go. Lesson 2 homework, submit your letter here. From the end of Lesson 2 selection, Letters from a Nut. Write your response to the letter using the U, View, and Skimmability, which are topics covered in Lesson 2, and also use a letter format in terms of date and address. The homework is worth 15 points. So basically what I would like for you to do is I'd like you to read Letters from a Nut and then craft a response. Pretend you are responding to these letters, and address your response letter like you would typically a letter. This is just an exercise in writing to a particular audience. In this case, we're writing to the nut from the title, Letters from a Nut. And this is mostly just a fun little exercise, but at the same time I want to see you using some of the tools that we introduce in Lesson 2 and sort of really taking those considerations and the audience considerations and running with them. Lesson 3 is proposal writing. This one you really want to pay attention to because one of our assignments for the end of the week is to write a paper proposal. So the big thing to take away from here, again, read through the lesson. It's going to go through in more detail, but it's going to teach you how to write a research proposal. A research proposal is the first step in writing a long-form research essay. It's when you try to convince me, I am the audience you are considering in this case. It's when you try to convince me that your idea for a paper is a good one and that you know what you're talking about and that you have a general idea of where you should go from there and what kind of sources you're looking for in terms of research. So basically you're saying, here's what I want to do, here's how I plan to do it. And if you can convince me that this is, what you want to do is acceptable and that your plan for action looks like it's going to be solid, then you can then I'll approve it and you can go ahead and run with that. But this is a good form of practice to get in for writing in general for this course as well as for other courses. Abstracted, take this to the working world. If you're asking your boss for a raise, right, you would need to propose that you get a raise. You'd say, well, I have accomplished this, this, and this. I'm a valuable asset to the company. Here, I've been working for you for this long. I think because I've taken on these new responsibilities, I should get a raise. You present your arguments in a very brief kind of way, and that sets up a meeting between you and your boss where hopefully you'll, delve into this discussion a little bit further. That's just one example of how this stuff can be abstracted to the real world. In terms of proposal and in terms of trying to convince people of your position in a short form kind of way, the possibilities and the applications are virtually limitless. After this, we have Unit 3, Lesson 4. It's on parallelism. This is an interesting sort of written grammatical technique you can use to further engage your reader, to build like internal parallels within your own writing. It adds a layer of complexity and a layer of flavor to academic writing, which can sometimes be a little bit drab. And then at the end of Unit 3, I provided some additional resources. We have, for the Lesson 3 video in Unit 3, Week 5, we look at a business proposal and an academic proposal and how the two of those can look a little bit different. I have the full proposal for business proposal and the full proposal for academic proposal, so you can take a look at it. And this can basically function as a way to give you some ideas on how to format your own proposals when you come to submit those at the end of the week. So as far as lesson assignments this week, we've got a quiz on Lesson 1, the homework for Lesson 2, the letter that we're crafting in response to Letters from a Nut. This needs to be submitted in a Dropbox. Lesson 3 quiz and a Lesson 4 quiz. The quizzes can be submitted whenever. I would like the homework for Lesson 2 submitted earlier in the week rather than later. Ultimately, it's up to you, but the sooner you get it out of the way, the less it's going to interfere with your proposal, which is the big thing this week. And then at the end of the week, we have our research proposals that need to be submitted by Sunday, by 11:59 p.m., as always. Your proposal here needs to be edited very carefully. It needs to look professional, and it should either be in a letter or a memo format. So, and this can be tailored to your personal interests. So depending upon what your major is, if you're doing something in business, try to write a proposal out in a memo format. That would be good practice for not only this class, but for abstracting these principles to the real world. If you plan on majoring in something in the academy or something going into like the sciences, for example, then maybe try to craft it to look like a letter format or something a little bit more academic. The choice is up to you, and I'll grade both of them on the same sort of, or in the same sort of way, but it needs to be professional, it needs to be polished, that's no typos, it needs to have a standardized form to it that is easily recognizable, and it needs to convey the ideas that you're trying to convey. It needs to convince me that you know what you're talking about enough to write on this subject, and that you know where you're going to be looking for research and how you plan to basically attack the problem of the research assignment in Unit 3. And then we also have here tacked onto the end, I encourage you guys to take a look at it, an assignment description for our final research essay. This is going to be the big one. This is 40% of the final grade, 7 to 8 pages or around 1750 to 2000 words in length. You guys can take a look at the assignment description yourself. It's going to be 60% of your unit grade, 40% of your final grade. So this is big, right? We need to be very, 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 very careful in dealing with this. And as always, if you come up with any questions, please, please, please feel free to contact me either during office hours or via email. All right, so a lot to get done this week. I'm sorry the video went on for a little bit longer than normal. I look forward to seeing what you guys have written for your homework and for the proposals. Best of luck.